All right, so Paul George is officially a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. Philly signed him to a max deal of $212 million over 4 years. And this looks like his mind was kind of set to go there to Philly for a while. One thing I also read is that there were significant gaps in what Philly offered him and also what the Clippers offered him as far as his extension. So it was not a difficult decision for him at all. What's funny is that James Harden ended up in LA after so many months of turmoil with Daryl Morey, just for Paul George to make that decision to join the Sixers with almost no issue at all, right? Very ironic situation. So let's kind of start here. Let's talk about the basketball fit between Paul George and this team. So a theme we're seeing so far with some of the biggest teams in the East is that they are investing in having strong wing defenders. We saw the Knicks do that when they went and signed Mikal Bridges, and obviously we're seeing now the Sixers doing it with signing Paul George, who is one of the premier two-way players, and pairing him alongside with Kelly Oubre. It looks like they're going to re-sign him. So that's two really strong guys out there guarding on the perimeter, guarding at the wings between those two guys. And when healthy, Paul George does have the capabilities to be an elite level defender on the perimeter. He's not the dominant defender that he used to be kind of in his days in Indiana, but with having options like Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey on offense, this will allow him to focus and put more effort in on that particular end of the basketball. This is also a major upgrade offensively from Tobias Harris. Harris has been a big-time disappointment for the Sixers fans the last few seasons. They had enough of it. Like, that was their last straw in the playoffs, where he averaged just 9 points in the first round against the Knicks. So getting Paul George by virtue should add a boost to your offense because he's better at what they were asking Tobias Harris to do. I don't doubt the Sixers will utilize George in the same way they utilize Tobias Harris. And like I said, since George is better, he will do better in that exact same role. And the fit around Embiid makes perfect sense. It gives Embiid another option to kind of look to if he's in trouble in the post. So we know last season, Nick Nurse utilized Joel Embiid in the post more than he'd been utilized down in the low post throughout his entire career. And so what will happen is teams will look to double Joel Embiid. He'll look to kind of reverse the ball out on the perimeter and kind of go from there. And Paul George is a perfect option to get the ball out to out on the perimeter when they're kind of making those swing plays out of those Embiid post-ups. So simplest way I can put it, a trio of Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid is absolutely elite. There aren't many basketball reasons for this not to work. Like I said, they're essentially going to use him the same way they use Tobias Harris, but Paul George is a major upgrade from Tobias Harris. He's going to be better within that role. It'll simply come down to health. That is the only thing stopping this team. Now, what we find out a lot of times is that when we say things like it comes down to health, can this team stay healthy? When we say that with teams a lot, when making our offseason predictions, a lot of times health ends up being the issue. We said that during the entire Paul George and Kawhi era with the Clippers. They were never truly healthy, right? If we can look at their time and go back, majority of the time that they were playing during the regular season, during the postseason, health was always an issue. Same thing with the Suns. When the Suns went and got Bradley Beal, all everybody was saying was they're going to be a championship team if they're healthy. They don't end up being healthy. Or look at like individual players. Joel Embiid is going to win MVP. He's going to do X, Y, and Z if he's healthy. And then we saw last season, he wasn't healthy. So a lot of times when we're talking about, making our offseason predictions or whatever the case may be, if we have to throw in if they're healthy before like talking about them and making our predictions, then 9 out of 10 times they end up having health issues. Just throwing that out there. I don't want that to be an issue with the Sixers, but we just find out that whenever we have to say things like about health and say things like if they're healthy or whatever, it always ends up coming up as a problem. So I don't want that to be the issue at all with the Sixers because I think what they have here is something amazing. I think this is the best trio, the best core that they've had during this entire Joel Embiid era. So I hope that they can capitalize on this. Seeing this type of trio along with the coaching of Nick Nurse is going to be very interesting. This is a championship level team, as I said, if healthy, and I hope health doesn't end up being an issue because, as I said earlier, the more we say that, the more it ends up coming up later as an issue. For the Clippers, is this the beginning of the end? Right? We saw them invest so much in bringing in Paul George to go alongside with Kawhi Leonard by giving up a ton of draft capital that one summer. And so far, they have not gotten a great return on that investment, right? They've never made the NBA Finals. And it's just been consistent disappointment, right? We've never been truly satisfied with this Clippers team. So many years of us just expecting them to do well, just to get disappointed and just to see them fall short. Like I said, no finals appearance. There have been more regular season and playoff disappointments than anything else. At least with the Lakers, when they gave up a bunch of future star players like Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, they got an immediate return on their investment. The summer that they ended up moving away all of those guys to bring in Anthony Davis, they followed that up with a championship. And I know generally that stint with LeBron being in LA has been weird, but they were able to win a championship out of that. We saw the Clippers give up a ton of future capital, a ton of draft capital, a ton of draft assets and young pieces to bring in Paul George, and they just have not had that same return. Like I said, no championship appearances, no rings, nothing like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where the Clippers really can go from here. I don't see a team with Kawhi Leonard and, James Harden being at the helm being better than a team with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden at the helm at all. I don't see that being a situation where they have an upgrade and they're better this coming season than what they were last season. I don't see that being the case at all. They're going to get worse. It's just an ugly situation for a franchise that looked like they were going in the right direction in 2019. And so what I've said before is this: the Clippers are going to have like back-to-back situations where they've had a lot of talent, but they haven't been able to convert. So the Lob City era is one of the most disappointing eras in basketball history. You have this great trio of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan, and no championship, right? And just a revolving door of really good pieces around those three guys, JJ Redick, Matt Barnes, and players like that. Then you follow that up with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, another really good all-star pairing, right? And then you bring in a bunch of other guys around them, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and still nothing. It's the exact same situation. Two teams that just could not get over the hump despite having really talented rosters, right? So a lot of disappointment to be had if you're a Clippers fan, right? You went through the Lob City era without a ring, and you went through the Paul George and Kawhi era without a ring. So for Philly, this is definitely an A+ move. They're going to get really, really good next season. I think they're going to get really deep in the playoffs, and I do think this is a championship contending group. Again, it's going to come down to health, and like I said, if we have to talk about health a lot, then usually health ends up being an issue. But I hope that's not the case. On paper, they look great. Great GM work here by Daryl Morey. And for the Clippers, I am very interested to see how they handle the rest of these next couple of months of the offseason as they look to hopefully bring a championship over back to LA and win their first in franchise history. But right now, I'm just not seeing the upside, especially given the fact that Paul George was so quick to leave out after just one meeting here with Philly. So we'll see what ends up happening. But as I said, great stuff here from the Sixers, and we'll see how the next couple of months of this offseason end up going for both of these teams.